Hi YouTube, welcome to Feedback Friday. Time to give some viewer feedback. We're going to take a look at a few miniatures. I'm going to save a few to the iPad so we can be ready to go. All right, let's see. We've got right now Discord's updating, so that's great. Thanks for just choosing to update in the middle of me trying to get pictures. But we got let's see. Paul McKay. Paul McKay doing this. I don't. Napoleonic, I guess. I'm assuming this is Napoleonic. Is he Swiss? Is that what it is? I'm not an expert on Napoleonic era guys. But I think this is pretty nice. This is a 28 mil, so this guy is small. He is tiny. This is for a box diorama. I mean, I think it's pretty nice. I think the like contrast and definition on elements is really good here. I understand that it is very tiny, but like all the elements are readable. So this is a really good like example of, yeah, just, you know, like every element, like the blacks, right? Read as black. You don't have to over highlight these things. The whites read as white, right? The red is like nice and red. It's not over highlighted. This is British. I just saw that's he's English. Sorry, that's the English flag. Swiss is white cross on red. That's the English flag. So yeah, I think the overall like contrast on everything is quite good. I think there's some definition we can improve, and maybe we can push a couple things or adjust a few highlights here and there to make some things a little softer or make some volumes make a little more sense. One of the first things I really notice is on the hands here. Like if we look at the hand, the fingers kind of become like one sort of blob. So I think if we take a dark, we can grab some sort of dark brown like this, and we want to really like draw around the thumb. And try and separate out some of these fingers a little better, just to have this be a little more clear. I also think you could probably, you're using like a pretty bright highlight here on the face. I think a little bit, pushing the highlights a little bit more on the hands, particularly like on the top of the hand here, like through the knuckle bow of the guard, will help the definition there. Same with this hand, right? Like you can try and increase the light just a little bit more. Okay. So that's one. And then the next is on the pants. So the pants, you're trying to render the folds a little much. So what I would recommend is sort of simplifying the overall shape to the pants here. Like instead of going quite so dark with some of these little folds here, like I don't know what this line is that's going down his leg right here, right? So like we can simplify that shape a little bit more. Same with the fold sort of here, right? We can have this light, like push this light up right next to the next volume, and then create sort of the shape down the leg, right? So that comes down to the knee. Tavat, are there any rules to Feedback Friday so I could know for next Friday? The rules, you have to be a sub. That's the rule. You have to be a sub. You have to join the Discord. You have to link your Discord and Twitch account, and then you could submit. Them's the rules. And then, whatever Twitch rules there are. The other rule is, the rule currently for this year is you cannot submit models that you are planning to enter into Golden Demon. Nevro, thanks for tier 1. Appreciate you. Exclamation point Discord if you want to join the Discord. Hi, Jared. Dude, Jared, what time is it in Australia at the moment? Robustion. Well, I know Australia has more than one time zone, but where you are. Okay. So let's look at the two sort of shapes here of the pants, right? So actually kind of simplifying these shapes make the overall form of the pants a little more readable. Sammy, thanks for the thanks for the tier 1, 5 months. Welcome back. All right, and then we can push the light just a little bit more. Right, we can, if we then need another small little highlight, like, we could do that. But yeah, I think you're being just a little too sharp on the pants. Speaking of sharp, so if you guys haven't looked, I suggest you guys know the new Eldar Corsairs that are coming out? The new set? Dude, Prime sub helps. I appreciate it very much. You guys should go check out the new Eldar Corsair. It's not a Farseer because he's got a different name. It's a something seer. I don't know. But the one with the bug eyes. Go check out the new box art for that one. It's super good. And it really shows like a little bit of a different approach to painting cloth in the heavy metal style, and I think it's super well executed here with the shirt. I'm going to push the light just a little bit more and try and really keep it sort of on the like upper chest, and we're just going to create just a bit more light. Kind of on the upper chest here, sort of the upper part of the arm. And really try and push that light up right against the next volume. And then his sash, I don't know, maybe someone knows, but I think with the sash, if you want to create some slightly different material rendering here, you could add like an extra little bit of highlight to the sash in order to make it feel kind of silky or something. I don't know if it actually is silk or satin or whatever, but in order to make it feel a little different from what I imagine is like a wool jacket, we can push the highlights a little bit more to make it feel like a slightly shinier material than the coat, you know? I know the eyes are tiny. I'm not going to nitpick those too much. I also think you could add just a little highlight like on his lip here. Yeah, it's quite good. Very nice. Yeah, the Korseth is the like, check it out. The difference in interpretation of the fabric volumes is very interesting. Or like the way he painted the fabric compared to like the armor is a super nice touch. And yeah, it feels very soft. I think it's one of the best heavy metal box arts I've seen in a while. All right, so all together, right? We're just like increasing the definition a little bit more and then pushing a couple lights in a few places just to give some more little overall shape here and there. All right? Just trying to increase that readability and definition just a little bit. Okay? Okay, Hip Hop Frogs. Not to be confused with Jim Jeff, Frog Jim Jeff. Trying to paint this guy for a competition, so I'll throw this up. This was my first time attempting a light source that wasn't Zenithal, as well as my first real attempt at some good-looking NMM. And yes, I know he looks like Baja Blast. Anything regarding the light placement especially helps. I'm guessing this is not close to done. I don't love this. Not the paint job. The paint job's fine. I don't love these knockoff GW figures. All right. What does it need, boys? Boys and girls, what is this figure lacking? Yeah, useless wizard, you got it. Yep, need some definition, exactly, definition, edge highlights, dark lining, right? It's lacking definition, and how do we do that? We use dark lining, we use edge highlights in order to create some of that definition, right? So, yeah, it needs We've got to create separation. I'm going to just kind of like work around the chest area and stuff to just demonstrate. But there is a clear lack of definition on these parts, okay? Like your volume interpretation is fine. Mostly. Like, look at this. This is bad. This is just like a blob here. Maybe a little on the face, right? Like, also, like, probably darkening this in. It's supposed to be like the Vox grill. You guys are getting better at this, by the way. See, you're training your observation, you're training your eyes. And by training your eyes, you're beginning to see. Right? So let's look at just the difference, but that adding some dark lines does, right? Really becomes more defined. And then, I forgot to paint some right here. Let's just throw them on real quick. Okay, now if we make another layer, right, we start doing some edge highlights. Okay. This is gonna just further really begin to like separate out these parts and create more clear shapes to these things, right? We have to help define these forms and separate them. Yeah. So look at how much that does to increase readability, right? So all together, especially when you see it at like this scale, right? Time to get jolly. Hello, welcome. Thanks for following. right? When you see it at this scale is when it really starts to come across. This is why like the how good the blending is or whatever on the armor doesn't matter as much if your figure isn't readable. Like smoothness is just a texture, definition, and readability is so much more important. Okay. Let's go on. Who's next? Did that one. Osobuco. The bear owl. However, I left this model now as done for the WT Open competition in Switzerland, but want to retake it afterwards to improve a bit. Can you give me some feedback as to clear areas to fix, improve? Sure. So I think this is a good example of, yeah, just being smooth, right? It's being smooth and really contrasty. But what ends up happening, especially when we look at it like this, it just becomes kind of noisy, right? It's like, yeah, dude, you can blend. Like I'm looking at the body and looking at the rocks and stuff, and maybe some of the transitions in the axe are a little rough, but yeah, it just feels noisy, right? It's kind of hard to pick out overall shapes when there's so much information in certain parts and then kind of a lack of general information in other parts. Okay, so especially like look at this axe, like right, this little hand axe here. It's just too much going on, right? There's no clear shape or form to this axe. It's just highlights like placed all over the place, you know? You've got a highlight, got a big highlight here, another highlight here, another highlight here, another highlight here, here, right? You can't have all of these, you know? You can have more subtle ones, but you can't have, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? It's just too much. Okay? So, here's what I want. Mr. Chucho. Hello. Yes, basically it's a bit that because they're all the same intensity, they're all like the same value. There's no real like midtones in the axe. It's all just kind of either like, or in the metal, it's all just kind of black or white, right? And there is some like here, right? But it's less so. Okay, so first thing, yeah, we need to create some general shape. There's also a problem where the like black beard and the metal all feel kind of the same. But we need to create some general shape for this guy, and whatever color that comes, that's fine. But right, we need some like general sort of shadow for him. There's just not enough. It's all like highlights. There's no overall form to his like body, right? I understand he's very barrel chested, but you have a tendency to like push the lights a lot. Like where's the where are my midtones from here? And then we can like get into smaller details like picking out some of these abs and stuff. Okay. He's got a lot of midtone in the face, but then it feels like the shoulder. Also, don't put highlights on the top of the shoulder here. This doesn't make sense. Depending on the lighting direction, the highlights need to come forward more. Okay. Yes, his body is a big cylinder, right? Then you can start to build. This is an add. Right, then you can start to build the highlights in places where they sort of face forward. Remember, highlights are a reflection of the light source. Okay. So that might not have seemed like a lot. But we start to create some a bit more overall shape, right? All right, let's get to the axe. Okay, so the axe. Pick this one. Let's say it's this one. This is the main. We're going to do this one as the main highlight, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make one more generalist shape to this whole thing here, right? So instead of one, it's now like we're going to combine some of these into like one bigger highlight, you know? So now there's one much larger highlight, and now this one down here, because it has less intensity, is like a secondary highlight. Then the axe, there's the bevel and the flat of the axe, okay? And we can't have both. Like we need to create separation between them, so you can't have the same reflection on both. All right. Then, when it comes to this stuff, right? You have the flats and the sides. People trying to overdo these things too. You have the flat of the filigree, and you have the edge of the filigree. the edges here are much more important. So what we're going to do is we're going to darken the flat a little bit. And then we're going to try and be more sharp with just the edges. So taking a light yellow like this or something, we come back. And looking here, because the highlight of the axe is here, anywhere where we see that angle on the edge is where we're going to focus this same angle, right? We're looking for this angle, or the perpendicular, right? Where it's here. Okay. We're looking for that. So it's like here. Okay, that repeats here, that repeats here, right? Probably hits that corner, somewhere on that corner. So it's here, it's here, it's here. Maybe it's a little bit there and maybe a little bit here, but not as much. Okay, so something along those lines. Does this make sense? Right? So anywhere where we see that position, that angle, we're looking at that edge, and that light's going to catch on that edge at that angle. Okay. Then you're probably overdoing the beard a little bit, so we can darken this down. I actually would have recommended probably to do the beard in a different color. But yeah, we need to separate it somehow and make it feel different than the metal. So like you could do black hair, but maybe make it like slightly more brown instead. But right now it's too similar to metallic, so it's hard to read as a separate thing. So maybe instead like we do something like this, and then to do the lights, maybe we use like a brown gray, right? We need to create some form to it. So the key is to create like sort of some general form. And then you start placing highlights, and they don't need to be like so bright, you know? I think people often overdo the highlights in hair. Right, then we can take like a gray, you know, and this is like a middle gray. It's not even that bright of a gray. Right, and then we can start to add some highlights. But we want the hair to be soft. And yeah, somehow separate it from the So just by changing this like tonal gray a little bit, we create like some kind of, we create some distinction between the two materials, you know? And if the hair, and if you're going for black hair and the hair starts looking not black, that means you've gone too bright and you need to darken it down again. Right? Like now his hair maybe isn't looking kind of black anymore. It's looking kind of gray. So what do? We'd come back and do another shadow on top to kind of reduce the overall light, right? If I wanted to come back and say, all right, let's darken it back down. It was too much. It's not reading black anymore, so I need to come back and kind of just lower these values back down to get his hair back to looking like a black hair. But it depends on what you're going for. Yeah, see? See how this makes the hair feel different from the metal? Yet it still fits into your color palette and yeah, it creates distinction there. Okay. All right. Next. Just stop jumping around. H. Reese. Hi, looking for some feedback on color balance / composition. Color, as in color composition? I like my Tzeentch wizards to be very colorful, but maybe it's too all over the place. It's one of those things where I've looked at it so much I can't see it anymore, if that makes sense. Are there colors you would cut or move for balance? I don't know, let's see. I think it looks all right. I mean, it's basically the Tzeentch color palette, right? Just with rainbow tabards, yeah? I think it works fine. So here's an interesting thing here with these, like, these sorts of effects. When you do this sort of stuff, right? These, like, iridescent or rainbow. Let me see if I can pull up one of the Tyranids real quick, because they also have an iridescent effect to them. Yeah. All right, here, I'll send it to myself so we can look at one of the Tyranids I painted. Right, so if we look at this, like, what color is his carapace? That's a real question I'm asking Chad. Yeah. So blue, blue, blue. I didn't use any blue paint. So there's 0 blue paint used on this. There is teal and purple, right? And teal and purple, when you mix them together, end up looking kind of bluish, right? So that there is like, it's purple, right? And then highlighted with teal. And you can see probably the teal a little better, like on the edge highlights and stuff, and the purple a little better in some of the deeper shadows. Okay. So it ends up looking blue. You can really see here just how purple that is, right? With just teal highlights. So what ends up happening is our eyes often will like average colors together. And we start reading this like spectrum of colors as like a specific color, right? So we kind of join them together. Now, this is a extreme case because you have multiple colors, but your eye starts to kind of average these out together as more of the blue. So you can play with like a pretty broad spectrum of tones here, but the green and the purple kind of balance out. Now, if it was me, right, and this was my figure, I think I would have cut down a little bit, right? So I think what I would have done is maybe not used, like, if I was going to cut one color, I think I would have cut the green, right? And I think I would have gone more as like a purple, maybe something like really like bright blue. Let's just try and do a color layer real fast. The rest of the figure is great, whatever. It's the basic. I mean, that is the Tzeentch color palette, right? So if we did something like this and got rid of the like lime green, think it might help a little, and then you could pull the like magenta color palette up a little more and get a little more purple in there. That way it sort of averages out to this kind of magenta violet sort of tone, or this like, yeah, this really like violet-y color. So I think just kind of eliminating just the like lime green, I think might make the color palette a little more cohesive, but I don't think it's like, I don't think it was bad before, but I think it could be just a little more cohesive like that. Slightly less noisy, you know? Or the other option, if you wanted to stick with the green. What are you doing, dude? Goodbye. If you wanted to stick with the green, I think the other option would be to reverse them. So you reverse the gradient. That way you have, let's do it real fast. Right, so I'm going to change the green to to the violet or the magenta. And then I'm going to put the green on the bottom. Now, this is just a idea, but let me just ask you guys which one you prefer. I don't think there's a huge difference, but there is a subtle difference, right? Yeah. Which one do you like better? The green at the top or the magenta at the top? Or do you prefer this? And maybe even this I would flip. I don't know. Yeah, so the reason this one works slightly better, magenta top, right. The reason the magenta at the top works better is because it creates more contrast at like the point where everything comes together, right? Where the green is like maybe because you have this teal and yellow, right? You have teal and yellow right here, and when you put those two together, it kind of averages to this green value. So you have a lot of this like green all right together. So this, doing it this way creates a higher contrast when they come together, right? Other than that, man, yeah, it looks cool, dude. I would maybe think about like, I like the little bit of orange you have here also. And this is maybe like, instead of really cold yellow, maybe trying to get just a little bit of warm yellow in here to create a tiny bit of separation between the you can use like a transparent, like a really bright transparent yellow to just like push that just a little bit more. So that it doesn't get as lost. All right, let me catch up. Laffrey. Oh man. Boo. Yep. Nope. I'm just gonna go Laffrey. Hello. Lobo Paint Studio. Thanks for the prime. Appreciate you. Lemonade. Hello. Thanks for following. Okay. Hope that helps. Will finally finished this gift for my dad based off a photo of his dad in World War II. The stacked images don't have great resolution, so I added new photos below. There was a ton of learning done on this piece and lots of customization modification to the kit. sculpting and reposing the figures. Lots of roughness here, but I'm leaning on it's the thought that counts. Would appreciate any general feedback on the piece. So I think someone gave you feedback in the I think someone gave you feedback in the Discord. But like, let's look at this angle, right? The angled image just feels like so much more I don't know, nice, right? It's like there's something a little weird about this image of it like coming straight at you, right? So yeah, generally it's a pretty good idea to like, we're naturally going to want to square up the base, right? So we're going to want the base square to us. So turning the figure on the base a little bit so it's not like perfectly straight on the base is often a good idea to like break those perfect lines, right? So that's always, yeah, just a general sort of thing. Even in this photograph, like, it's not coming straight on, it's coming like slightly angled, right? No, I think it's pretty cool. I'm not an expert on military modeling and tanks and stuff. We have some people in the Discord who are. So when it comes to doing like armor and stuff, not my forte. However, I will say the base looks pretty cool. The figures we could work on. Figure painting is a thing I know about. Also, oh man, TC Cooney, hello, welcome. So, in terms of the figure painting, yeah, I can see there's some roughness to the sculpting, but that's okay. We can fix this. You can sculpt with paint, my guy. So not a problem there. What we want to think about is like, we can create some further definition and stuff in here. So big thing is, yeah, just getting some of these elements like defined, right? Even, yeah, I don't even know what's going on this one. But we can maybe make something up, you know? Things like this, right? It's like, darken this in. If you don't, you know, we can add some shadows and stuff where we need in order to give some form to this figure that's maybe not necessarily there, that's in the sculpt, so we can kind of cheat it in a little bit, create some folds and stuff that weren't really sculpted. Right. Last Feedback Friday, I talked about this with Declan's figure. Like, you can sculpt in the paint, right? So even though maybe some of these little folds aren't super deep, we can create some form and shape that is a bit lacking in the sculpting in order to, yeah, give some definition There. This one? This is supposed to be a rain jacket? This dirty looks. Did you? So yeah, just try and introduce a little bit more light and shadow into some of this stuff, right? Get some of these darker shadows in the folds of his coat. And also as he comes down like this, you're gonna get more occlusion shadows as he's like in the tank and stuff. I think the faces aren't terrible. Not bad. I think the mouth could be a little more defined. Well, don't be you gotta paint the mouth, all right? Then you could probably push the light on it, some of the faces a little bit. Like this one. Okay, so just yeah, my recommendation would be to just try and push the contrast, particularly on the jackets and stuff, probably on the helmets too, and then yeah, like even here, like we can push some further light on the jacket in order to create some little folds and stuff that aren't there, right? So like I can create some shape and that's maybe not sculpted. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Hello. All right. What are we doing on time? Yeah. Okay. Which one's next? Oh, that's Tyranid. Oh, we got a big one. From Luna. All right, let me thanks for the tier 1 4 months. Appreciate you. So let me take a quick break. And then we will jump into the next one. Okay, so I'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, hello, I'm back. Well, we're getting a hype train going while I'm gone. Matt, roleplay me. Hello, thanks for the Prime 3 months. Appreciate you. Welcome back. Okay, I should really update my Be Right Back screen to like a video that cycles through images, but some more of my paint jobs. That would take effort though. Okay. All right. Hi, Eric. I've been working on this monster for a year now. It's still work in progress, but maybe you could advise me on how to improve the metal elements. I know that light reflections are a bit inconsistent. I'd also like to do an OSL on that flame, but I totally don't know how to approach it. Okay. So, it's an interesting start. Some of the metal works, and some of the metal a little less. But I think overall, it's coming along. Like if I look at this up here, right? Again, we get the tendency to get stuck in details, right? So let's take the belt, for example. Okay. We want, it's not just all about it. This, like this part here looks great. Like this is really nice. But then something like this, like you don't have to make every panel have all this contrast on it. Not every single part needs to have maximum contrast. We want to create contrast between parts also. So by simplifying some shapes, we can show that there's like a little more facets and stuff to things. What's that? Whammy with a gifted tier 1. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Breeze, hello. You got a gifted sub. If you want to join the Discord, you can submit models for Feedback Friday also. Right? So we can simplify that shape a little there and create a little more light on that front-facing plane, you know? Same up here, like we want to create this thing faces upwards. So we're going to have more light, just like there's more light on the center of the face and on the center of the chest. More light will be reflected on the center of this, because what is this shape, right? If we were to continue this shape around this gorget, right? If we were to continue this shape, okay, it would be something like this, but that's not the whole shape, right? The whole shape would be like this, right? If we were to connect this together, it's like a big cone, okay? It's a cone with a hole cut in it, right? So we can create what layer is that? Whatever. We can create a bit more form to this through that. And then we push that light, right? So it creates a bit more light. The whole figure, I think, needs a bit more light in general, like especially on things like the face, right? Pull more attention to the face. Okay, so when it comes to metal, yeah, you gotta think of the general shape first. Like down here, kind of works. Like, I like this boot. This boot's pretty good, right? You've done like a nice, but we can push that light like a little more there. Push the light a little more here, like on these edges, just a touch more. And then there's this sort of like cylindrical shape to it that we can create. And then you probably want to darken some of these parts down a little bit. Like you have this nice, this darker brown here, but we could also darken some, where are those dark reflections on like the vertical cylinder, right? Cylinders, they run vertically, okay? They run the length of the cylinder. That's a important thing to always remember with that. Like, and then you have this, and then this would maybe we would get like a lighter tone that kind of comes down like that or something. I don't know. But you get kind of the idea. We can create a little more interest in the metal this way. Then you need more warm yellows like up here. Okay, some of these, because this is in the light, we want to create a little more warmth and mid-tone in some of these parts that match the yellow down here. You know, you got these nice warm yellow colors in those parts, but then we don't really have them in some of these elements. Okay, so that's an important thing to consider. Now, flames, okay, OSL, I'm going to briefly talk about this. We have to consider like what color the OSL is, what color the light is. There's so many things to take into consideration when talking about OSL. Is it a green flame? Is it a red flame? It doesn't matter what kind of flame it is specifically. Let's say it's green for just the fun of it, right? Say it's like a bright. So the flame needs to be really bright, okay? That's sort of the first thing. We got to create a nice bright flame. I'm going to undo that real fast. Okay, we've got to create a good burning flame where the brightest part of the flame is in the middle, the bright white hot part of the flame. Okay. Now, light can only add. So, assuming that you have light already from the top, adding a green light is not going to do very much, right? Like this flame is not going to really affect like the top of her arm because there's already light coming from the top. So light also has fall off. So if we consider like in rings, right? This first ring, the second ring, this third ring, right? Every single time we have a ring like this, let's make this another layer just to show. Okay. We'll do it with the airbrush. It's easier. Every time we have a ring like this, okay, so maybe it's something along the lines of like, okay, the light is like this much here, and then it begins to quickly drop off. Light falls off in a inverse exponential fashion. So it's most intense like right in the middle, and then it quickly falls off, and then it becomes more consistent like lower out, right? So it's going to be really intense here, and then as it goes out, it might not do very much from there, right? It's like barely doing it. It's there, but it's barely doing anything out here. Okay. Does this make sense to you guys? So the center of the flame, and then, yeah, it's less and less and less as you get further away. But then the difference between the two as you get further away is not as much. It's not as extreme. So, right? So if we think about it like that, okay, maybe the flame affects this part of the arm some, and maybe it affects this hair. Maybe it affects these parts a little bit here. Right? And it's probably going to affect this. This might reflect some in some of these parts. But then, like you can see, I'm adding this light green flame to the top of her hand, but it's not really doing much of anything. Right? So, yeah, the fall off caused by this, and then by the time it gets to her face, right, it's barely anything. Right, like that's too much on her arm. Okay, so you have to consider like how far away it is, and the light can only add, so I can't place like a dark green on these elements. They can only go up in value. All right, light can only increase in value. Then you can get little stuff like, okay, if this is metallic or something, like it might catch a reflection. Reflections are different, right? This, because if this stuff is all metal, maybe this does like really reflect that flame more, right? So metal parts work differently, and metal parts can show the OSL from further away because of the fact that they're reflections, right? They're not diffused lighting. I don't know if that makes sense to everyone. Basically, you have albedo and you have specularity. Albedo is how much light is absorbed by an object and then diffused. It's like it enters the surface and then reflects off, right? So like rough concrete, for example, has a very high albedo. It absorbs the light and then reflects it. Okay. But it's not like a mirror unless the concrete has been polished, right? So it will absorb the light and then reflect it, or like a rough white plastic. Like, for example, here's a good example. Look at this silicone mat, right? It's not really shiny. It doesn't have much of a shine to it. It's got a little bit, but there's not a ton. So this has a very high albedo, okay? As opposed to like my fingernail or my skin right there. Even the difference between my skin here, which is not shiny, right? So this and this, right? This part right here is shiny. You can see it reflecting the light, but that reflection doesn't show up on my skin here, okay? So they have the same albedo, but there's more specularity on this part of my skin. Okay. So when you're painting any light source, but particularly doing OSL, you have to consider like what kind of reflection are you showing? Are you showing the the diffused albedo, or are you showing the specular reflection? And the specular reflection, depending on how intense the specularity of the object is, right? And then if you're talking about metallics, they're basically, especially the more polished they are, they're basically only specularity, right? They're just reflections. You have much higher, you will see the reflection from much further away. Okay. I don't know if that made any sense to anyone, but I hope so. To Gills, hello, and Darth in TK, welcome. If you want to do a deep dive into the physics of light, go look up I'll type in, and it's I don't know if it's albedo or albedo. Albedo. You can go look that up on Wikipedia if you want a an interesting read. All right, 6'2" koala. Hi Eric. Please find my latest finished piece. Tried hard on this one to make the basing more interesting, and it's probably the best I've managed. Okay. Base is pretty cool. I don't believe you. Save failed. I mean, it looks sharp to me. This is one of those tough ones to give feedback on because there's probably not a lot I would change. It seems quite nice. At least in terms of the figure, looks really good. Some good chipping and pretty sharp edge highlights and everything. I'm not an expert on Tau. Yeah, I'm not an expert on Tau, but I feel like maybe you could like do a little more with the red, because like these parts are really interesting, right? Like these things, right? So I think what I might say is maybe we could break this up a little bit more in some ways. I would go look at maybe some other Tau stuff in order to kind of see how they approach it, but I think you could do something like maybe introduce another kind of pattern like on the leg or something, right? To kind of break up the form a little more. I don't know, right? This is where it would be like, go look up how Tau designs are done. But maybe even, these little things like that can help, split the form up a bit. Like this one on top of the gun's nice. I think maybe I would consider like bringing it around. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just like testing to see if I like it. I don't know if I like that or not. Like maybe this one that goes down the leg could continue on the foot or something like this. Maybe it continues up the body in some way. This Tau needs racing stripes, what I'm getting at. But yeah, it's basically this idea of like, there's so much white, right? It's just white and metal that you can use. The point of these like patterns or like these stripes and stuff is to kind of split up that form and just break up all that white, Yes, the lines on the road are a bit shaky. I did see that. But also the actual like road is very wavy and kind of busted up, so that is maybe one of the reasons it looks shaky, and maybe if you look at it right from above, it's not that bad. Yeah, so I'm not saying this is the exact way to do it, but it could just use more little things. Like maybe instead of this, maybe it's like, I don't know, man. Like, would look at like the Tau decal sheet. Maybe there's some little like things like whatever, these little like warning decals or things. These like, these little markings of red around the figure to create some additional accents, right? Little pops of color and interest. Now, the base. The base is, I like the base composition is pretty nice. There's some stuff like this, like why is there this dark shadow like around the gun, like that shouldn't be there, right? Also looks like you got a little lazy on the gun compared to the figure, right? You're doing all these crispy highlights, and then I look at the little gun down here, and it's sad and not highlighted at all. Where are my edge highlights on this guy? I don't know where they are, but because I can't see them. But you got to spend the time on the base too, right? There's no, we can't be doing shortcuts on the base, all right? Even like this stuff, right? Like, you want to see crazy base? Like, go look at the guy that, I don't remember his name. I apologize for not remembering his name, but the guy who did the Kroot that got gold in 40K single figure this year. The base is nuts, dude. It's super good. Like, really, really, like, you can see just how much care and effort was put into the base. I'm not saying you have to go to that extreme, but there's definitely space here for, like, this ground is messed up, right? Like, okay, you have this big crack, right? But where's, like, the little micro cracks and stuff? You know? You can add more, right? Maybe some of this paint is peeling off, right? This is damaged or whatever, right? You've done a little bit, but we can maybe go a little more. I also think that the amount of, like, Bob Chaw, hello, thanks for the follow. Did I miss Kim? Hello. So, I also think the amount of just, like, random rubble is kind of sparse for how much I would expect to see, right? So I could see adding a bit more here and there. The one random gun in the middle of the scene also feels like a little sparse. Yeah, Matthew City did the crew. The rendering on the base is crazy, guys. So yeah, I think there's probably some more room to add some more stuff to the base. Basically, I have a bit of a mantra with bases. Keep adding stuff, right? Especially when you're doing these sorts of scenes where it's like rubble. Keep adding things until you go, okay, that's too much. And then you can start taking things away if you need, right? When you hit the point where you're like, I've gone too far, you're probably around the right spot. Especially on a battlefield or whatever. Okay, cool. So, a little more rendering there. Also looks like you forgot to render some of this stuff, but it's a cool model, man. Hello, Duddy Clem. Sable Corgi. Hi, Eric. This troll was a 2-evening speed paint of a rough metal model. Oh, can we get whip feedback? Yeah. You can. You just have to tell me what's still work in progress, because I don't like doing feedback on stuff that you're like, well, it's not done. Then tell me it's not done. Looking for feedback on, are the basics in place for doing a decent model fast? What I did wrong? Did I spend my detailed time well? Eyes closed. Thanks in advance for your thought. Colors are most accurate with the black background. The highlights are just slightly whiter than reality. White background. Yeah, I'm going to do the white background one because it's just a little easier to see. Like camera phones don't take pictures well on black backgrounds. They don't like black backgrounds for whatever reason. I mean, for speed paint, like, sure, right? Yeah, he's got nice definition and stuff. I think there's probably some parts that could be a little slightly more defined. I mean, he's just like, you gotta say like, what's the intention, you know? Like, if the intention was just like, I just want to get this model done for the tabletop, sure, that's fine. You know, you don't have to go crazy. If you want to spend like an extra 20 minutes to make it slightly better, yeah, you could do that. Like this is kind of what I was talking about at the beginning, where it's like, yeah, I could spend 4 hours on a model and get it done, right? And it'll look great on the table from 3 feet away. Maybe it doesn't look as great when you look at it from 6 inches away. I could spend double the amount of time, but is the model twice as good in double the amount of time from 4 to 8 hours? Probably not. It's probably only 50% better, right? Then I spend double that amount of time. I go from 8 hours to 16 hours on a model. How much is it really improving in double the amount of time, right? So, is this guy pretty good? Yeah, he's pretty good. He's fine. So, in terms of what you did, like, pretty well, is there's nice general separation of elements, right? The wood looks like wood, the stone looks like stone, the rope looks like rope, right? All those things. Okay, so that's what's done pretty well. What could be better is like, there could be a little better focus. One, this model is terrible. Just these old models, like, it's really hard to read some of the features. So, yeah, it's got pretty good definition now, but we could improve certain elements even a little more, right? We could maybe improve the focus a little bit. So things like the stone, right? Like, what we could push this a little further, you know? Like, we take and we come in and we do like one little extra layer of a highlighting here, right? We sharpen this up just a little bit more. Maybe even slightly more than that, right? We come in and we just get this ever so bit, push that contrast, push that definition, push that sharpness just a little bit further, right? We can do the same thing here, right? It's a little blue. The blue is a little flat in terms of color, right? So what's happening is we go blue. I'll show it. Right? So if we look at this guy, blue, and then blue, and then lighter blue, and then light blue. Oh, not that one. Light blue. Okay. Let's look at the color here. So the color kind of progression here, a little boring. It's all just sort of right here. So we could play around more with like how we mess with some of the color. Like maybe a slightly more warm highlight might work better. And then here on the face is like where we could spend a little extra time just getting more of the face highlighted, right? Bringing out some of these features a little bit more. Okay. Probably the same on the hands, right? Because the hands are quite important too. Hands and the feet. But yeah, like the hands are quite important. So trying to spend just a little bit of extra time and detail the hands, you know? The claws are good, but the fingers are a little lacking. Right? Something like that. Let's look at the difference between those two real quick. See, just like pushing the light a little bit more on the face and hands. Okay. And then yeah, like I would probably put the skulls are a little dark, so maybe here I would just like, same with the teeth. Like maybe I would try and push some of these elements just a little bit further. These little details that we want to pick out just a little bit. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but just, you know. Make those stand out a little bit more. Okay. And yeah, maybe the claw. Like, the claw just needs one more little push on it or something, right? Okay, does this stuff make sense? Yeah? This is like, where can you spend that little bit of extra time creating a little more definition and a little more interest in the areas of importance, you know? I tried some washes per Eric's last video. I think I picked a bad model to try it on. Too many flat spaces. Told you guys. I told you. It's not for every model, right? This is why I was saying, like, contrast paints are terrible for Space Marines. Which is why I find it so weird that they're always, like, they use Space Marines as the, like, example for contrast paints. Like, they work so much better on, like, Nurgle or Tyranids, right? Like, Tancred H. Hello. All right. Thomas. Wish this dude would have been done by now, but still a work in progress. The hanging heads and some details aren't really painted yet, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this one regardless. I don't believe you that you didn't save. Okay. Yeah, pretty good. Not bad. I like the kind of metal that's going on here. There's some bits of definition around certain elements that are a little lacking. Highlight placement is pretty good. volume pretty good. Like the hand, you know, the shadows of the hand and stuff are quite nice. Here's where it kind of doesn't quite work for me. The blue and the kind of pale skin together, it's too abrupt. Yeah. It looks like, it kind of looks like he's painted blue instead of his skin like changing from blue to pale, right? Like he has like a different color skin tone around certain parts. Like even on the face, like we've got this skin tone here, like this more Caucasian pale skin tone, you know? And then it like kind of goes around the eyes a little bit. But then it doesn't really go around the eyes up here. So like in the same spot, right? It kind of comes up onto his nose, but then it just stops. It's like it stops too abruptly. Like why does it not affect, it affects like the skin around his lip, but then doesn't really affect his chin at all. So when you're doing this kind of thing, you have to transition this like a little more. I see people do this with goblins all the time where they give them like bright purple or pink noses. And it's like you have to be a little bit more subtle with that color transition, right? Like, what if it affected, I'm going to do it like this. We'll do it as a color layer, right? Like, what if it affected his chin here? And then it continued down his neck, right? Like, why does it just stop here? So, yeah, you have to make it like a bit more natural. Like it needs to flow together a little better. If you want to make it look like it's the color is changing from one to the other. Or if you don't want to do it this way where you're trying to like blend perfectly with all these gray layers, because this is what's going to happen as you switch from orange to blue, is you're going to get these like grayish tones, okay? Like it's just naturally going to happen, right? The other option is to make the skin feel more like molted or patterned, right? So you do things like this, where instead of just changing, right, the skin patterning kind of shifts from one to the other with this sort of bordering, right? So you get these little like spots of the pale skin coming in other places. And then you can do stuff like take the blue, and the blue starts to like appear. Right, so there's some kind of clear, it's not like a hard line. There's like some, shifting between the two, right? When you have like a lizard and a lizard's underbelly or something is a different color, they have like very hard changes. And typically you see this sort of thing with like things that have scales, right? So the scales will actually change color, or feathers. The different like types of feathers have different colors, or on mammals, right? Like their fur might have different colors. So like on a raccoon or whatever, you might have stripes and different parts of the hair grow different colors. When you're talking about skin, what really has this sort of like skin effect? Well, do like salamanders have skin, or do they have scales? Maybe like sharks, right? You can look at sharks and how their skin kind of does it. Who's to say an orc is a mammal? I don't know. Or a troll. But yeah, you might want to try something to blend these two together in a way that's a little more natural or less abrupt. These parts pretty good. It's getting a little noisy in some parts. And there's a little bit of lack of definition in certain parts. So like around the skulls and stuff, like we just don't have enough shadow in some of these parts to really create the separation that you need to see to make these like sitting on top. Right, like all this stuff needs dark lining around it. So cleaning that stuff up, like where's the dark lining around this? And then I think you need to maybe push some elements a little more. So they're like a little brighter, a little darker, because it becomes kind of noisy and it can be difficult to see. So like this is nice that you have like a different color leather right here to this and this, right? They're different values of leather, so that kind of works. But yeah, even like maybe the value of the skulls needs to be a little higher, right? Like overall, So it's like pushing these a bit more just to create more value separation between elements. So they stand out a little bit. These are quite good, right? These are like nice and bright. Yeah. I'm not 100% sold on the OSL effect. I don't even know if it really needs it, but it's okay. I think it works pretty well on the metal, but you're probably going a little too bright here. Probably want something a little more orange and dark like this. Right, well, I'm doing an ad right now, so I need to do, right, like this is probably a little too strong. This metal is not like hyper shiny, so darkening this down a little more. And then, yeah, he needs some additional definition in the face and stuff, but yeah. Yeah. Probably the parts, there's probably some parts of the face that also just need to be, yeah. Well, what I mean by definition is like we can push some lights a little more in some areas of the face just to draw a little more attention, right? And push the value a little bit further. Because right now it's like his shoulder is, I feel like, drawing, his shoulder and chest is drawing a lot of attention, and the other parts aren't really getting the attention they need. And then what I would probably do is take like some kind of skin tone like this or whatever, and darken some of these areas down a little bit that aren't super important. Like his skin could just be a little bit darker in some areas. Not that much. Help some things stand out a little bit more and make it feel a little more balanced. Right? Like these two, this definitely like helps draw attention more to the face. And you can see by like pushing the light on the face helps draw more attention to the face. All right. Fallen shots. I know you just reviewed this piece last week from someone else, but I was looking for feedback on the skin. Maybe suggestions how to push contrast more darker. Yeah, Fallen shots, like we've had, I know it's been having conversations about skin tones and stuff in the Discord recently. We were talking about skin tones and whatnot. This is for sure. This is better. You're not lacking as a ton of shadows here, but you could use more. Like, for example, let's just look at something real fast. Let's do the old value thing, right? Metal arm, pretty good. Yeah. You know, the metal arm's super contrasty, right? The shirt's also quite contrasty. Feel like you're a little hesitant to go slightly darker on your skin tones. Okay? So one, I think the shirt's too contrasty, and I think the skin isn't quite enough. All right? So let's just paint directly in black and white with just some we're just going to darken things, right? Okay, and on the face. Right, depending on what direction the light's coming from, if we have the light coming in more from the right, maybe this side of his face would be much darker. Depends on, yeah, it depends on direction, you know. So we can increase the drama here a little bit. So just something like that. Right? We create some light and shadow. Then, yeah, this is probably too much. So what I would do is I would, we could turn the color back on now, right? So you can see we created some more shadow in the skin. And then, yeah, this is probably, you're probably highlighting this too much. Like his shirt's not made out of satin, right? It's probably cotton. So just like darkening. Doesn't need to be, shirt doesn't need to be shiny. In fact, his shirt should probably be like quite a dark green in order to create some separation between this, to break up the skin tone, right? Trying to create some contrast against that skin tone. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So there's areas we want less contrast, there's some areas we want more contrast. Bonjour. Bonjour, monsieur. Can I have your feedback on the skin, please? Other parts are just based. What do you want from me, dude? Like this? Come on. Can I have feedback on the skin? Yeah, it's good. There's your feedback. Mr. Princeau, hello. The skin looks good. I think if you wanted to like get even fancier, you could maybe add some veins and stuff just because of how pale the skin is. You could add like some, what I would call like subsurface detail. Yes, the picture is definitely overexposed. It's a little hard to see some stuff. But like, I like all the little color nuances and stuff you got going on. The details look great. No, I don't really have a whole lot to say. Hello all, hello. Do I hear sarcasm? What was I being when was I being sarcastic? Oh, Yeah, it's definitely what works best. But yeah, it looks good. Uh-huh. I'm sorry, I have no feedback for you on the skin. Need a pro painter to be undercover, submit a post for feedback. I've given feedback to pros before. Hi Eric. Thanks for the excellent feedback on my last model. Really appreciate it. Can you give me some feedback on this one, please? I know spaghetti here. Sure, I can give you some feedback on this one. All right, let's take a look. Ethan, the tier 1, 12 months, a whole year. Wow, it's our 1 year anniversary. I feel so loved. Hey, buddy. Okay. Again, this is like, so we looked at his work last week. It's good. It's fine, right? Good brush control, pretty good blending, right? Where he wants to be smooth, it's pretty smooth. Where he wants to be more sketchy, it's a little more sketchy, right? Some good parts are sharp where he wants to be. So, like, clean lines and everything. So, it's good. It's just feels a bit flat, right? There's no dynamics to it. Yeah. It's everything. If this is, and I think this comes from a painter who probably paints one thing at a time, right? It's like, I'm going to paint the gauntlet, and then I'm going to paint the belt buckle, and then I'm going to paint the skull. And you're thinking of them individually, right? Everything's being thought of individually. No, I don't think the values are too similar. Like the bracers and stuff are clearly like darker, right? There's good value hierarchy in elements here. But yeah, everything feels like it's being thought about kind of individually, you know, and not being approached enough as a whole. So how would I approach this? Well, one thing you can definitely do, I think, in your painting that will make your painting more interesting is you need to look into, let's make a duplicate. I've done this on some other people's work, but look into playing with like mother colors. Okay, so what I mean by that, what this is basically, like, we want to try and introduce certain colors into the shadows. We want to introduce certain colors into the highlights, right? So we're adding some kind of ambience, right? Maybe this guy, all the shadows are a little more reddish, you know, all of them, right? So we go like maybe slightly purplish, okay, with everything. And then maybe the highlights are a little more yellowish, because it seems like you're playing around with that kind of idea, you know? So we can sort of play around with this idea that it starts to help these colors kind of work together. Because it often feels like when you start picking colors for something, you're like, I'm going to paint steel. I'm going to use these steel colors. And you're not necessarily considering like the environment. So one, I would start working in like a more limited color palette that'll help everything kind of feel a little more cohesive. And then trying to use like some general shadow colors and general light values that the colors shift in certain directions. So like if we take this, for example, like look at the difference in like the harmony throughout the figure, right? This reddish purple tone that's in the shadows kind of carries throughout the figure and helps like tie things together, right? What is that? Crowding the pan. Hello, welcome. Okay. Now that being said, we talked about this earlier on the dwarf. Pick a spot. Too many reflections. Too many similar reflections. Broaden this out some. Okay? One bigger reflection with little reflections inside of it, right? So there's one overall larger reflection with more nuances inside of it. And then yeah, I think we talked about it on the Connor, right? But just trying to have a little more general shape to everything, a little more general. Like here, the light feels like it's just kind of coming from straight forward, maybe. But I think I think this guy could have some more form to him, right? Some more shadows, like the backside of his arm here. Like I don't have a sense of the direction of the light or what the light is, right? And that creates this sort of feeling of it just being kind of flat. Like this is why it feels kind of flat. It's because there's not like a good sense of direction or anything to the light. So you can definitely play with that a little more and create a little more drama and show off the form a little better. There's some parts where you're not going dark enough. Like I see no real shadow to his eye socket, right? There's nothing here that kind of says like this shape is in shadow. There's some shadow here. And then probably because you're using this guy, you probably want to push the light a little more in some areas, like on his chest. Oops. And then there's no highlights on the mouth. But anyways, okay. right? And the hands feel quite flat. Yes, no, maybe this makes sense to some of you guys. Like why this helps to really push the shape and drama more, right? It's like understanding that this is some of this stuff needs to be more in light, some of it needs to be more in shadow, and not just like, okay, I'm painting this ab, or I'm painting, like we create more general form to everything. Right? Like here, maybe all this needs to be brighter, right? To create some shape to the horns or whatnot. Okay, so we're trying to define the volume. Hi Eric, submitted this piece to MPO, beginner commended, in Squidmar, but I'm planning to do another round on it before Nova. Other than the bad blend on the shadowed shoulder, which is already on the list, what can I do to improve it? Okay. Hello, Hellraiser. How are you? Look at this orange juice lid. Bad blend on the shoulder. I don't. So, this one's taking me a minute because I'm trying to think what's going to be some big takeaways that can help you. Okay. There's some decent like visual focus here. One, I feel like the piece is a little weirdly balanced. I'm not entirely sure why she's like really standing off to this, like it's like this, right? What is the column doing in this case? Why is she so like, why is the piece like, she's the important part, right? So why is there so much like visual weight off to the side? Like we want to be looking at her, but there's this big column thing. I would have probably put her much closer to the column, and you probably could have done way more interesting lighting with her being close to the column and you know, creating some sort of shadow or something on the column, using the column to frame her in some way. But aside from that, I think what's going to help you a lot is like there's just a lot of light and really intense light in places that we it's making it very hard to read like what exactly is going on with the figure. What I mean by that is like she's wearing white fabric, correct? So there's a lot of like these what I would call like muddy deep shadow in the white. Like these like browns, these like sepia browns in the shadows that make it hard to kind of see the overall sort of shape. So that said, right, I think this is probably blown out a little too, because this is like pure white right now. You don't need these like extreme darks in some of these whites, right? Like we have to create this visual separation between like this is fabric, this is not, like this is something like I don't even know what the green is that's wrapping around her. And it's like there, yeah, this is this concept of like I'm gonna push the contrast everywhere. Like everything is gonna be so highly contrasted that it's just like there's not enough visual separation between elements. Okay. So my recommendation to you would be to try and separate more, right? I mean, I don't want to sit here and like draw over the whole figure, but you need to create, and also my pencil is dying, so that's fun. You need to create more visual separation between elements, okay? We need to create more definition in that, like, this is fabric, right? This is something, this is skin, this is fabric, this is skin. Especially when you're dealing with a very like muted, like I don't want to say muted, but limited palette like this with all these oranges and things. All right. And like, say we're talking about the lighting on her skin here. Okay. Well, okay, so the light is kind of hitting her from straight on. Well, why is this so dark right here? Is there something creating shadow right there? Why is this so dark down here? Like, where is this shadow coming from on her hip bones? Right? Like, should she have light on her leg right here? So some of the volume interpretation is a little odd. So yeah, I feel like you're over contrasting certain elements and everything starts to feel like satiny when it's not necessarily, right? Like not everything is satin, right? And then yeah, like not just using like a brown, like using some more midtones and stuff in here to create shape and form to these parts. So cleaning some of these elements up in order to, just like increase the readability on parts, because right now there just isn't the readability in here. It's a little too messy. I can't read where this like certain lines end and certain ones begin. Like there needs to be shadow that separates whatever this thing is. There needs to be shadow that shows like this is laying on top. Okay, so yeah. Like, I can't see what's going on down in here. The column is actually quite good. Like, where's the shadows in between the cobblestones? Don't like that. My recommendation to you, this might come across as I don't want you to take this the wrong way. Sometimes it's best to take the things you've learned, move on, and start working on another model, right? Like, you've entered this model, you've received feedback on it, and you could sit and try and refine and whatever and do stuff to the model, right? But oftentimes it's good to take the things you've learned on a piece and then move on and work on another piece and apply the lessons that you've learned on the previous piece on a new piece, right? Instead of trying to reiterate and reiterate and reiterate on the same figure, like, just do a new one, you know? You will get much better that way. But yeah. Anyways, you can see kind of the difference here, like, that makes sense. If you still wanted to come back, I'm assuming you would bring back what you learned as well as have a new, fresh view on the older piece. Sure, but eventually it just reaches a point where it's like, you're going to learn so much that you would end up repainting the whole thing, right? So I think it's good to have figures where, so you can see where you were at and where you've gotten to. Like, this is where I was. Now I've done this. So, like, just, yeah. Nothing is going to beat just, you can bang your head against a wall on one piece for forever and try and refine it and whatever, but it's never going to be good as if you just went and moved on and had like an even stronger base on the next figure, right? Like, on the next piece, you're going to have a stronger foundation to build on top of on the following pieces, right? Hi, Eric. Hoping to get some feedback on this model. It's still work in progress, but I'm aiming for a very warmly lit scene, ruddy skin tone. Okay. This is a good angle. Good angle to show things from. Yeah, flat check. It's good. Starting fresh lets you make new decisions from the ground up, right? It's exactly right. Okay, let's look at this. So, if we look at this lady, we can kind of see some shape here, right? So, if we were to draw the Terminator on her face, something like this, yeah? Okay, that makes sense. So the right side of her face is in shadow. So what does that mean for the rest of her? That the bottom, and it's the bottom right, but it's the right side, you know? What does that mean for the rest of her? So the right side of her body should also be in shadow. So if we were to draw where the Terminator should be on her body, this one's pretty good actually, the arm here. That means there would be like a shadow that goes across here and come down like this. And then this would be in shadow, right? Something like that. But what we see is that a lot of this isn't matching this sort of value here, right? I'm going to make another layer, and I'm just going to draw in these parts with this deeper color, this darker value. Probably be some on her neck here, actually. So I'm going to get some of these volumes to be this darker shadow color. And her hand would probably cast a little shadow there. Okay, let's turn that off. So now you can see, like, I've shifted that volumetric shadow, yeah, more to the right side to match what was done on the face, right? And then you can begin to, like, blend these together or whatever, so you start to create softer shapes. Like so, and then her belly button. All right, so we start introducing these midtones in order to blend these half tones in the transition to blend these together, right? Darumart, hello. Okay. So something along those lines. So let's look at the difference here. So before, and after, right? Then we can come in and create even more shadow where we need it to create these occlusions. Wait, what? Would you bring the highlight value up as well on the bottom then? No. And then if we look at her face, like, okay, the side of her face is in shadow, but why isn't the side of her nose in shadow? Doesn't she have some shadow on her from her eyelid? The problem is the light is too far over. So here it's more centralized, here it's more, yeah. There would probably be some more lights like on her brow. But getting that basic form in, right? This is what I really mean with, like, we're trying to draw in the form of the light. We're trying to create that dynamic lighting that shows there's some volume to these things, like right. Then you guys can start to get fancy if you want and do things like, oh, this light here is going to, like, reflect off her arm and then bounce back onto her other arm. And the light's going to reflect off her chest and bounce back onto her face like this. Kios, hello. And Asavarkal? I don't know. Something skull. Asarva scroll. Hello. I don't know. Can't read that. Okay. So, getting in those basic forms and making sure the lighting is consistent is going to make for a much more, dynamic paint job. Then also, don't paint her abs. Like, this is not necessary. She does not have the body type to have, like, super defined abs like this. It's weird. Okay. But that's the big thing. Sammy. Painting up this Death Guard is a fun project to experiment with oils, enamel paints, and resin water. I know some areas could use some cleanup and refinement, and I think I messed up the chipping a bit with inconsistent lighting. I'd appreciate any feedback. Looks dope to me. I mean, I think it looks good. Looks like a Death Guard. I am on the right part of the feedback, right? It's this, yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, looks like a weathered space marine. Can you always go smaller and more refined? Yes. But, I mean, I think it's quite nice where it is right now. I think all the battle damage and stuff looks quite good. Chipping and stuff is nice. Good definition on all the fingers and everything. Everything is very super readable from here. Trying to think if there's anything I would change or add. I think the thing I would consider adding if I was gonna do more to this is I would maybe try and add a little more color pops here and there. You've got this sort of rust and grimy stuff going on, but maybe yeah, there's some nice orange in here, but maybe you could push this a little bit more, right? Come in with some more intense rust here and there. Some rust maybe gathering around some of the bolts and things, right? The studs. Especially around any sort of thing like this. Right, so I think maybe that's where I see, yeah, there could be some improvement. You could play a little bit more with where this rust is gonna or corrosion and stuff is gonna gather, because it tends to gather in recesses, right? First. So I think that would be the big thing for me, is to just introduce some more rusting and corrosion around bolts and things like that, you know? And then maybe, we could do some corrosion in on the brass, or copper, whatever. And yeah, someone mentioned the cloth. The cloth definitely feels a little dull at the moment. I also think the highlight's a little weird. Like I would try and bring it up more. It's probably also slightly dark. So I would push that light up a little bit more. Don't need to go quite so dark in all these recesses. Should probably look more like the shoulder pad, you know? And then introducing dirt and grime to the... so then you can come in and like splatter this with whatever, right? Like whether it's dirt or... do I have a splatter brush? Hello, Matt. Thanks for gifting 5 subs. Appreciate you. Welcome, everyone. I was like, I don't even know if I have... I got some splatter right here. Look at that. How big is this going to be? Right, so then you can, yeah. You can play around with like adding splatter and grime to the... especially around like the bottom of it, right? And then you can maybe do some blood splatter on the fabric or these like deep red blood stains or something, you know? Something to add some, like his cloth shouldn't be clean. What was the suggestion on the tentacles? Oh, it's the slime. Yeah, you can do the slime thing. You can also, maybe instead of white, to add like a little pop of color here, instead of doing like white highlights, like this is very, like, use some color, you know? Like use maybe like a warm peachy skin tone or something. Right, so instead of highlighting with white, we highlight with like a more pinkish color that's a little more saturated, and that'll make it not, you know, some parts not feel so washed out, right? I think these things are supposed to be copper also. They're sensors. Like, as in the things that burn incense. I don't know why it's been embedded in his power fist, but that is what those are. Right, so we could still go quite bright and use like a more punchy color to add a little interest here and there. Yeah, maybe the helmet got a little white or a little too bright in a couple spots, so cool. Make sense? Yeah, well, oops, I forgot to paint it on a separate layer. But you get the idea. Winston P. Smith. Hi, Eric. You looked at my son's model last stream. That was cool. Appreciate it. My local GW store is giving away promotional Death Watch models. Yeah, man. The Disruptor veteran. I copied your version as an exercise in being clean and as sharp as I could. Would welcome any pointers about areas to work on in the future. Dude, I think his is more clean than mine is. What? Like, what you want from me? Yeah, dude, it's tight. Like, really sharp. Great job. No, this is not. No, this is definitely not a Roman. Roman would not paint a Space Marine like this. Okay. If there were some things I was going to be nitpicky about, I think maybe there's some parts that could be, like, I'm looking at the gold here. I feel like you could have maybe pushed the highlight a little more on some of this parts, right? Like, I can't even paint small enough for this image, but it's like pushing the highlights a little bit more on this just to make it a little more shiny. Your hairline seems a little off and a little gray. It should be based on the color of the hair of the guy. Right? So instead of using black, you would use like a dark version of his hair color, if you want to do that. And then the hairline is drawn slightly wrong. So it's a little more this shape. I'm going to just draw the line so you can see sort of the hair shape. Right? So the hairline's a little more shaped like that, where yours is a little more it appears to be more like this, right? It's just kind of like cutting across. So you want to make sure that hairline, because the hairline really does two things. It goes like this, so it's like a cap, right? And then it cuts down and back towards the ear. Your Space Marine needs eyebrows. I can see even in this picture he doesn't have I can't draw them small enough because the image is too big. Stop drawing Space Marines without eyebrows. They don't shave their eyebrows, guys. But yeah, man, this is super impressive. Like, I don't really have much to say, to be honest. Like, 100% would roll dice with this guy. Like, I think maybe yeah. Maybe you went a little dark with the green here, and I would have gone, like, slightly more saturated. Just to make this feel like a little more glowy. Yeah, so instead of starting with, like, a dark green and working up to lime green. Start with a like really intense green and then work up to lime green, right? So you're moving up in saturation also. It's just going to make it feel more like, yeah, like a glowy surface instead. It's a very small difference there. And your base could use some work. Why are we... Not for Patreons, Hellglazer. It's for, all you have to do is sub on Twitch. And then link your Twitch to your Discord account. And that'll give you the... so you can use a Prime or anything. Doesn't matter. A tier 1 or a Prime will get you access to the Feedback Friday channel. Yeah, man, this is super good. Like, this highlight's maybe slightly low if I'm being like really nitpicky. It should probably be like more like here. But okay. And then yeah, that base is, you skimping on the base. Oh, thanks for tier 1, man. I probably won't get, I'm unlikely to get to you today because I'm going to go eat soon. So I might only get through one or two more figures, but I will get to, I promise, on the next one. So here we go. Like, yeah, you wanna highlight these a little more, and then, you know, you can add some texture and stuff. Don't skimp on the base, all right? Well, you guys, you did such a great job doing all these super sharp edge highlights and smooth blends and well placed volumetrics, and then you do a boring base. I think if I had one other statement, one other thing to say, I think it maybe highlighted the ultramarine shoulder pad a little too much. I think I would have, you maybe went a little, it's a little too baby blue for ultramarines, I think. So I think I would have toned that down just a little bit to make it feel, and then even down something like this. Just so it's not quite so bright. I don't picture ultramarines as like that bright of a blue. But yeah, this is super solid. Wow. Wow. Yeah, man, that knife is really good. Shit, dude, if you didn't tell, like, if I didn't know it wasn't mine, I would just be like, yeah, this dude just painted one of my figures. Like, did I paint that? Like, okay. Okay. Didn't I look at this already? Hey Eric, some general feedback on this piece. I tried to do a dramatic cyberpunk lighting situation, maybe a bit too dramatic, without really using traditional cyberpunk colors. Am I crazy, guys? Dude, am I having deja vu right now? What's going on? Huh? Well, I don't see it. Dude, I swear. I recognize this model. And maybe I... Did you enter this in like NPO or something and I just judged it, so that's where I know it from? I'm not crazy. You guys are crazy. Whatever. All right, well, let's look at it. So, not bad. I like some of the stuff going on down here. There's some cool stuff with the lighting. But so sometimes when you do this sort of effect here, right? Like I would like it's hitting her face, right? Let me put it on another layer. What I would try and do is like there's definitely some spots where it's like this volume is facing downwards, some of these volumes. So like you can hit things like this. You want to make sure you hit some of this stuff, like whether it's like under here. So it's like it's hitting here on the hair, right? But it's not hitting here on her chest. It's not hitting here like on the abs. So it's also trying to don't use like white. It doesn't look. Try to avoid using any white in the OSL. It's a colored light. Like if you're gonna do that, like just go up to like a really bright version of the color, you know, instead of pushing it too pink. And yeah, you're definitely like missing some spots where it would hit like in some of these parts. Like if it's reflecting on these, it needs to be reflecting like on all under these fingers and stuff. Like I can't see these because they're all dark, but it should be reflecting off of all of this stuff, right? It's 2026. I know what year it is. Yeeg Minis, hello. Okay, reflecting off the knife, reflecting off all these fingers. Like, you gotta make sure it shows up, you know, everywhere. Her skin is also quite pale, so it would probably show up a little more on her skin. It's going to show up a lot on her hair. And don't feel like you have to go through dark red, right? Like, you don't need to go through dark red to do this. Hello. Hi, Ghoul. All right. So, just try and, even like, you know, something like there or whatever. Should probably reflect off her lips. It's going to reflect in her eyes. right? You do the white reflection from this light source. Where's the red reflection from the other light source, you know? Anyways, the main reflection's pretty good. I like what you're doing. I like the cast shadows. But yeah, the rim light, right? This glow, you need to really lean into it if you're going to do it, right? Like, so don't cheap out on it, if you know what I'm saying. Like, really go for it if you're gonna do it, do it. And the whole point of this, right? The whole point of doing this sort of effect is so that we silhouette this shadow side of her on this black background, right? That's the point of these like fill lights or rim lights, right? So we need to make sure that that is doing its job, basically. Cool. All right, let me... What time is it? 5? All right. I'm sorry, guys. I know you submitted today, but we'll get to you next week. I just want to look at them real quick. This is cool. I like this. Don't love that color around the on the cloth, but I'm not sure what the plan is to do with it. It's a little too similar to the squirrel's fur color. The reflections are pretty neat. That one, the shield one, nah, dude, it's too much. It would be way more it would be way more distorted than that. I'll talk about it on the next one, but yeah, it wouldn't be like a perfect reflection of the shield. Did you, Scott? Because we're just about to stop. Name, I'm just going to quickly look to see if there's anything I can do if you want to like make some quick changes and resubmit. Nay. Yeah, I can see why you don't like the cape. Try darkening it. Yeah, it's probably a little too light right now and it's bothering you because it feels very similar to the skin tone, and so the value is probably off. I would darken it down. And see if you feel better about it then. Like, just pick a darker color. And then, yeah, this looks quite nice. Hill Glazer. So see how you're doing the studs? Right? All of these little like rope things, each one of these little rope around his shoulders should be rendered in a similar way. Right? Does that make sense? So each one of these needs that little spot highlight in them, and they need the little like bottom highlight. So it's like they're like rivets, but they're elongated, you know? Yeah, you'll receive feedback. I was just giving you guys some quick tips if there was something you were like, I'm working on it right now. But I'll look at them, and if you want to work on it and then resubmit it next week, right? Like, I'll give you some quick tips now so that you can implement this stuff if you want to then resubmit the photos and say, hey, updated photos below so I know to jump down. But you're still in the same place in line. Okay, so cool. Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to play some Kill Team tonight. And yeah, hope you all have a great weekend. Hopefully I don't get buried in snow.